Hello and welcome in for our week ahead collective card pulls. We're back here on the November altar and what a first week. We hit the ground running with all those scorpionic energies ushering in right along with that super full moon in Taurus. So as we are riding out those waves, today I can share as I'm recording this Sunday evening, Mercury is now retrograde. So I just spent, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes searching for something that was missing until I lifted up an object and it was right there. But that's not all. My computer just randomly turned the Wi-Fi off while I was in the middle of creating a newsletter and didn't save my work. So yes, Mercury retrograde is in the house. We're going to talk a little bit about that with the astrological weather. Nothing to fear. It's about being mindful of these natural rhythms that we move throughout the year and how we can flow with them and utilize them to really help us in this building of the sacred foundation that is creating the stable ground for launching into 2026, which is coming ever closer. So as we move through, I'll share some of the updates here. Got some big things happening this week in the way of special early bird offers and things that launch into some of my biggest offers of the year. So I'll get into that as we go. We're going to tune into some of our intuitively selected decks. We're going to start again with a card from the Magical Creatures, now that I found the book, for those special cards that are going to set an archetype for us. You might remember we pulled this guy at the top of the week, last week, Letter. And I had said about watching your mailbox. I heard from a couple of you receiving actual mail, hearing about things on their way to you through the mail, or some other communications. And I can report that right away, the next morning after Sunday night, when I pulled this card and I talked about it, I got a really cool letter in the mail. And I've been wanting to show you all week, but I was head down recording with all of the energies this week. I got a letter here from the Royal Mail. It's from airmail from the UK with King Charles and everything. And I flipped it over and it was from the amazing Rebecca Campbell, one of my favorite deck creators that creates the most gorgeous content. And I had pre-ordered her latest deck, the Inner Temple Oracle, which I will likely be pulling out for a special card pull for the 1111 Gateway this week. So stay tuned for that. But it was a gorgeous gift for having purchased that deck, I believe. I'm not sure because it wasn't expected at all. But it's this beautiful folio that has two actual cards from the deck as a little 2-card reading for me, the Soul Whisper and the Grounded Action. And it was beautiful. I was like, this is like a wedding invitation. These two gorgeous cards in it, Simplicity and Chamber of Soul Contracts. And then behind each one was a beautiful card with the Oracle message there. So that was surely a wonderful surprise and a beautiful little treat to receive through the mail. So I had to share that popped up here the morning after we got that letters card. So we're going to start there and just have some fun with pulling out a little archetype to set the tone for the week. Then we're going to get into our tarot pulls, which we're going to use the sister deck here, which is the Northern Animal Tarot, which I used for the Empowerment Pack month ahead readings last week. Equally beautiful deck, stunning. I love the colors and the use of the animal symbolism you'll see in just a moment. And then we will finish it off with a sacred traveler message for us. So let's get started. We're going to tune in first for this little archetype card to set the tone for our week as we're moving into, like I say, this week we have the 1111 Gateway. It's a very powerful numerological day, and I'll share with you a little bit about that in the cosmic weather. And then, now that one's speaking to us. We'll talk a little bit about this retrograde season as well. Bread and cheese. So some sustenance here, all on a earthy, red, grounded blanket, touching earth itself. So I really feel this energy of that Taurus energy of nourishing the body and coming into the physical, and those bread and cheese crumbs I'm tuning into to be minding those spiritual breadcrumbs that come your way this week. So we'll talk about that as an archetype when we get into the messages. Let's now tune into, we're going to bring Merlin in real quick. We used the Merlin's Woodland Brew last week. We're going to tune into Merlin connection and mentorship. Loving these energies again, feeling very connected with the color and flow into this energy. So let's take a look. Bring that in. Beautiful. And tune into our tarot. So we're going to pull our first card to represent Monday, which is setting the tone for the week, Monday, November 10th. What is coming in for us here as we step into this new week? As we go through these cards and I bring in the intuitive messages, of course, you're always invited to take what resonates and leave the rest. That's how it works with a collective reading. There's always someone there to pick it up. And I do love hearing from you on all the wild ways that these things come through. And of course, if you have something specific popping or you're really wondering more about some of these particular energies that come forward, please feel free to reach out for a personal card pull this week, and I will pull one for you and send you a private video recording as my loving service here on the Empowerment Sharecast. So thank you so much for being here. If you're on one of my social media spaces, check out the caption or links for the Sharecast. It's free, it's fun. We're going to be doing some 11/11 portal card pulls and more this week, so it's a great time to pop in. More earthy energy. Speaking of loving service, we have this energetic exchange of distribution, of giving and receiving with the Six of Pentacles. Yeah, there's been so much earthy energy coming through. Physical, tactile, really bringing us down to earth. Like I said, the sustenance and foundation, of course. So we'll talk about that Six of Pentacles to kick off the tarot messages. Let's see now about Tuesday, which is the 11/11 gateway. I will be sharing a very special offer on that day. So if you're interested and you're not already on my newsletter, please let me know and I will be sure to add you and get that early bird special notice to you as well. Tuesday, a potential block or challenge. Two of Swords. Yeah, crossroads, choices. And, there's a sense of expanding our vision to see beyond perhaps what meets or does not meet the eye, in this case with the blindfold, because there's a sense of an inability to see many options or feeling bound or not sure which way to go. So we'll feel into that for some clarity. And then we have Wednesday as our midweek blessing. Midweek blessing on Wednesday. The Hierophant. Wow, major arcana card of the guru, of the teacher, and bringing through lessons in ascension and also, mentorship. And this one specifically gets into the animal that we see represented here and the symbolism. I know that because that one came up for some last week. So we'll feel into that blessing coming in midweek. Thursday. How are we growing? How are we growing this week and into this month and season? All around ongoing growth. Thursday. 10 of Wands. Yeah, we're really feeling the culmination of everything and it's all coming due. I think this card came up. It did come up and perhaps in the other deck, and I was talking about, graduating. And, as we are getting to that point, all the assignments become due, the term papers, the projects, all of the credits and everything being wrapped up, and it can feel like an awful lot. There's a lot being shouldered. So we'll talk about that and the wholeness and completion of the 10 as well, and how we're growing in that, in shouldering the load. And perhaps even we'll look at how we have an opportunity to communicate when we need help, when we can, really share some of the bundle, not one that we have to carry all by ourselves, all at once. Friday wraps up the week from the tarot messages. So let's see what comes through there. Friday's message. Ooh. Let's see, I got 2 there. I'm going to swirl it around one more time. 1 card, please, for Friday to wrap it all up. There we go. The Hanged Beast, another major arcana. So there's an energy of stuckness, hung up, delayed, but all in the name of fresh perspectives and new opportunities for seeing potentialities where we see that illumination coming in. So yeah, when we're in retrograde, things slow down and we can feel pulled back through, going back over things. So we'll talk about that. And again, with the bat being represented in rebirth, that's been a theme that's been coming up for us all Scorpio season with that bat symbolism. So we'll talk about that as well. Let's get our final card from the Sacred Traveler as a little punctuation mark on the messages. See what's coming in for us from the Sacred Traveler. Okay. Vast vistas, expand your horizons. Wow, that was giving me a little Jack in the Box, a little Jack in the Box energy. So I don't know, just the way he's popping up out of that, but opening up to like this wide expanse of potentiality, expand your horizons. So we'll feel into that one to sum it all up. Let's take a look now at some astrological weather to get it started. All right, let's start things with our astrological weather, beginning with the here and now. I'm coming in on Sunday evening. It's November 9th, and we've got Mercury retrograde. This is our final Mercury retrograde of the year. Now, Mercury enters retrograde in the sign of Sagittarius, but will make its way back to Scorpio in the coming week. Mercury retrograde can stir up miscommunications, mishaps, contract disputes. During a Mercury retrograde, we may have issues with travel plans or technology. We may also find ourselves being more forgetful. Like I said, I started the night here. Not only did my Wi-Fi somehow get turned off and not save my work, but I just, spent a good deal of time before getting ready to come on here tonight to find something that, I in fact had misplaced. So I'm here for it. Now, Mercury can hold, of course, some trickster energy, but deep at its core, it's our personal messenger. So if we do encounter delays, disputes, or forgetfulness, this is generally our sign from the universe to slow down and pay attention. Mercury retrograde is a good time to go back over things from the past that we may have missed the first time around. So I do think it's very interesting that we have some slow moving pentacles here this week, as well as the Taurus card from the Hierophant and the Hanged Man coming in as well. So there's definitely energy supporting the slowdown and the go over, so that's kind of where we can benefit by flowing with these energies and really surrendering to that energy, pulling us, perhaps back over things or to finish up old projects, loose ends, and the like. Now, along with that this week, as I've mentioned during the card pull, we've got November 11th, the 1111 gateway. We also have Jupiter retrograde here. So again, this is a week of slowing down and going over, but also some really powerful numerological energy as well. So Jupiter goes retrograde under this sacred 1111 portal. Jupiter is the planet of expansion and abundance. And as it goes retrograde, it creates some contraction in our lives so that we can focus on the smaller details, being kind of pulled in. And then again, with the expanse, which is so interesting that on the end of this week, we have the expand your horizons message coming in. So, when we have that contraction, focusing on smaller details, typically Jupiter very often wants us to see the bigger picture. But when in retrograde, we're drawn to a small section of that picture so that we can see things with more clarity. And Jupiter will remain retrograde in Cancer until 2026. So this smaller picture is likely to be centered around our home and family life. So we'll see how that unfolds in the coming months. Now, it's 11/11, make a wish. This is a magical day that unlocks one of the most powerful angel numbers we have. 11/11 has so many sacred and special meanings, but it essentially indicates that we're leveling up, on the right track, and divinely supported. So you can work with this number code by setting intentions and focusing on all you wish to manifest. I will be in this week with some more energy around 11/11, as well as a little pop-up card pull and messaging for that. So stay tuned there. Lastly, I want to highlight November 12th, when we have Mercury conjunct Mars. So with a retrograde Mercury and Mars coming together, there could be some volatile energy at play. We may feel like rushing ahead on a project or signing a deal to just get things done, but we do need to proceed with some caution. Mercury and Mars can create the tendency to say something that we may regret later, or to be extra harsh when sharing our perspectives. So we can channel this energy to find our confidence to speak up and to get things moving in our preferred direction. So you see how all of these energies are kind of creating a hospitable environment for really taking a beat, slowing down, and just kind of going over it. So if you are, in a situation where there's something for you to speak up and communicate, you just kind of want to be a little more diligent in checking your words, if it's written communication, if it's verbal communication, just kind of running it through the head, heart, gut filter to see how it's flowing, just knowing that these energies are at play. Let's take a look now at our archetype this week, making me hungry with a little bread and cheese. All right, I was tuning in. Bread and cheese, the key words are nourishment and sustenance. So the bread, crusty on the outside and soft within, symbolizes nourishment and sustenance, while the golden cheese represents richness and indulgence. So this card reminds us of life's simple pleasures and the importance of finding nourishment, both physical and emotional, in everyday moments. It encourages us to take time to savor the small joys and comforts that nourish our bodies and souls, reminding us that sometimes it's the simplest things that bring the greatest fulfillment. Yeah, I'm really feeling, and again, this is sort of setting the tone for the week as an archetype for us to tune into: nourishment, sustenance, back to basics, and comfort food. A lot of us here are in the Northern Hemisphere where we just had the clocks turn, unless you happen to be in one of those places that doesn't do that to us. But now that it is pitch black at 4:30 in the afternoon, it's soup season, it's comfort food, it's, and even if you are in the Southern Hemisphere and days might be getting brighter and spring has arrived and you're moving into that blossoming, there is this, kind of waking up of the earth and wanting to nourish and fertilize the ground that you are planting on now, and that you are going to be preparing as you move into the coming season with solstice. So, kind of aligning ourselves with these natural rhythms. And then we have this sense of the physical body being nourished and cared for, as well as the emotional body. It didn't mention the water, but I see water here, which I think is a very important reminder of, yes, water is emotion. It connects in with the flow and the feels, but also, hydration, hydrating yourself, which is like, again, if you think about right now, I'm kind of seeing like a really dry sponge. And then as that sponge gets moistened, some people don't like that word, but and it sort of comes back to life, springs back to life. So I think just some basic pointers to be aware of how you are nourishing and sustaining yourself, mind, body, and spirit. And, we have cards from almost all the decks all the suits this week, no cups. So like I said, that water was hiding in the back. So that's interesting. But we do have earth, air, fire all represented in our cards we're going to talk about here in a moment. So, just sort of, and of course we did bring in Merlin, which it's very elemental to me, very much connected in with the elements and this energy of utilizing all those things to create and recreate. So again, in this time of retrograde and going back over things, we're back to basics, back to things that are comfort and stabilizing and helping us to feel rooted, grounded, and safe as we build our sacred foundations. So let's take it from here by taking a look at Monday's energy. All right, we are kicking off our tarot messages for the week with the Six of Pentacles, the scales balancing between giving and receiving, reciprocity. So here in the Northern Animal Tarot, we see a squirrel, and it is giving out some coins or seeds to a few mice huddled on the ground in need of some help. So do you understand the art of giving and receiving? What's being asked of you? Can you accept and help? What can you give freely? Love and caring is free to give to yourself and others. Are you able to ask for help and or give help when asked by others? Well, spoiler alert, right over the edge here, we have that card that was giving me that ping for Thursday, how we are growing, that's my lean on me energy. Do you really need to carry all those wands all by yourself, all at the same time? Do you know how to ask for help? Are you comfortable with sharing the load, or are you taking it all on yourself to your own detriment? So I see that's being reinforced here in growing into being perhaps a little more willing to ask, to communicate our needs, to verbalize when we need something, but also, very much highlighting the philanthropic perspective of this helping others, and this is a time in the collective, and especially, this time of year in the US, we have Thanksgiving at the end of the month, but a season of gratitude, of harvest and bounty and abundance, when we know that so many are not enjoying that abundance in their life for any number of reasons. And so opportunity abounding to help others in whatever way we can, in what ways we are able to pay it forward. So it's sort of highlighting for us this opportunity to, from this place of gratitude, sharing when we can, but also allowing ourselves to receive when we're in need and to be open to that reciprocity back and forth. So it's bringing in that balance, that energy of 6, which is harmony and balance and healing, especially in relationships. And we see that here between squirrel and mice, so there's this, sort of community feeling to it as well in terms of opportunity here to share the load and growing in that process. So feeling that coming in to start things again from the base, Pentacles, Earth energy to build on this sacred foundation. So let's take a look now at our Tuesday energy. All right, Tuesday is how a potential block or challenge may present itself this week. This, of course, is the 11/11 gateway day. Now here we have the 2 of swords, but I can't help but notice that we've got 2 strokes, two strokes here. So I'm feeling that 1111 amplified. And it's really beautiful utilizing the crow as the swords, the air element, this sense of expression, communication. And here as well, our thoughts, our mind is being highlighted here in terms of choice point, crossroads, decision making. It's coming up here through the Northern Animal Tarot as a crow sits still on a boulder on the side of a great lake. Silently, the heavens stretch out above, showing off the vast universe. That is always present, but not always seen when the sky is full of light. In this dark environment, everything is exposed and stars seen clearly, but a blindfold is over the eyes. How can one see? A sword in each hand, raised high enough to almost scrape the sky open. At this time, take note of your dreams. You already know the answers, but don't get visually distracted by the outside world. Bring yourself in alignment and surrender to the moment to get your answers. Interesting, it used the word vast because we have that word coming up here as well at the end of our messages with vast vistas. And it's almost like coming out of this box. I imagine that when we're in this box closed in, the walls are closing in of the box. It could be dark if the lid is closed. And so similarly, how can I see this bright, expansive vista if I'm in the dark? If I'm closed down, so I'm feeling a connection here between these two cards as well. So we'll certainly tune into the Sacred Traveler's message for vast vistas when we get there. But, just the blindfold can go either way. On one hand, it can be helping us to go within and look inside as a preference to being distracted by things that are going on the external that might distract and take away and influence in some way that's not, a pure channeling of what's coming in from the vast universe as we tune in. But I'm also, getting that blindfold in terms of what am I not seeing? What has been hidden from me or out of view? Or in what way have, again, I been keeping myself bound and limited, closed down in that box, not fully expressing, not fully communicating? And we know, as we touched on the astrological weather, that we have some transits this week that are going to potentially stir things up, poke, if we will, with those swords at potentially there being, some of that energy going on. So opportunities there as well to take a beat, go within, trust your intuition. So let's take a look now at Wednesday's energy coming in for our midweek blessing. All right, Wednesday brings in the Taurus card, the Hierophant, major arcana energy, card number 5. So in the midst of change and transition and this mountain to climb, there are great lessons to be learned and opportunities for us to find those keys of wisdom and sacred wisdom at that. So I'm feeling that energy sort of amplifying what I was bringing in intuitively this month with the sacred foundation for culmination, integration, and then initiation. So here, the Hierophant is saying a mountain goat sits on the tallest of mountains, surrounded by a deep blue sky. Flowing robes and the keys of knowledge surround this highly studied and evolved creature. Mountain goats can scale the steepest of cliffs, almost making the journey with relative grace and ease. Here to teach and guide whoever wants to explore deeper ideas of this world and time. Climb the steepest of mountains with this stilled leader. You've studied long and hard to get where you are. Maybe a teacher has arrived to help you to the next step. You can hear above the noise of the busy world around you. Take this time to ask and or heal anything you've been feeling lately. Your connection to universal love is strong. Time to learn and get your answers. Interesting. The noise. what we're seeing, what we're hearing, what our senses are picking up, as we just talked about the potential block or challenge of that too at the crossroads. Now we have this coming in with this sense of rising above and big picture. And I think it's interesting that it's described as the biggest, tallest of mountains, and yet look how big the mountain goat is. He's sitting on it like a stool, And so a reminder of just how big and expansive, vast vistas, your soul self is. That if you've been playing small, keeping in that box, keeping things very contained and safe and predictable and manageable and acceptable and palatable and all those things, the time is now to throw on that gold robe and really step into your power, with your perseverance and resilience and those energies that have brought you over many mountains before, so that whatever we're facing now, and this, of course, is bringing in the added layer of being aware of potential teachers in your midst. It can be you. You might be the teacher, the guru, the mentor. And you could also have an opportunity to connect with a teacher, a guru, a mentor, in terms of helping you to access your own inner keys of wisdom. So it's a blessing in these relationships and connections that we make. And by teacher, yes, of course, it could be a formal course of study or training or a coaching capacity or something. But also, we're being taught all the time by the people in our lives, sometimes the most challenging relationships. Children are wonderful teachers, So it's like looking at your relationships that are around you, the noise, the things that are coming up, and feeling into what is the lesson that I get from this? Where is the gift in the struggle or the frustration of the miscommunication or the inability to get past this particular block, and build from there? So you're really going inside. Again, Taurus energy is basic. We're building block by block, brick by brick, and creating these foundations. So let's take a look now at Thursday's energy coming in for how we are growing. All right, Thursday, here it is. We've been talking about this one with the heavy load and the lean on me energy. Thursday represents how are we growing? And we've got this bundle of sticks, wands, that are being carried with the energy of the number 10, which is really bringing us into ending of cycles, completion, wholeness, but also in this case, kind of reaching a fever pitch when it comes to perhaps a workload or things that we are shouldering. So the 10 of Wands speaks to a steep hill covered in green grass and surrounded by blue skies. This fox carries a heavy load, moving one step at a time toward the top of the hill. Your determination is unwavering. There are many that would have fallen when you keep taking steps forward. Congratulations, you've beaten your old self-beliefs and all the rest. It was hard, but don't worry, it will be worth it. The roles are all about to change soon. So that's giving us a little bit of a different perspective as we were talking about, the reciprocity of that Six of Pentacles and, seeing things for, the mountains, the hills, and the climb that it is, and how much perhaps we've been shouldering opportunities for us to share the load, to ask for help, but also if we think of it as finding more efficient ways to handle things. Because surely bundling these up and utilizing the strength of the back versus trying to carry them all in our hands or under the arm while climbing up a big hill, kind of giving us that visual of also getting more efficient at being able to manage all those sticks that are coming at you, from all these different areas. And so continuing on, there's a congratulations in order, which is kind of reminding me of that Six of Wands energy, the victory and success that we've been tapping into in the previous weeks about, coming into our own when it comes to moving through some potentially tumultuous energies and weather, uphill climbs and such. But it's saying not to worry because it's about to change soon. And yes, there is a shift in the wind. Now, that is not to say that November is a cakewalk. The energy is very different than October. In some ways, perhaps more intense with some of the different aspects that we've got going on. There's a little bit of everything in November for sure. But even, coming into 2026 as a whole, that energy is starting to filter in. So as we start tapping into, what's coming in collectively in the coming calendar year, that's where we see, again, this, as we're building these sacred foundations, again, making things more efficient, more sturdy. We're focusing on our nourishment and sustenance and that red base, the earth energy, and now here too, one foot in front of the other. So, a little bit of everything. Like I say, it's going to show up differently for everyone. So whether this is about you tuning into asking for help, allowing that, being in a position to help others, or feeling like, yeah, you know what? I'm getting it together. It's not easy. It's not to say that I don't stumble from time to time or drop some of my sticks here, but I'm finding more efficient ways to use my tools and to maximize. So that's all growth opportunity for us as we're moving through. We've got one more tarot card and then our sacred traveler message to finish us off. All right, the Hanged Beast coming in here with the 12th major arcana card. Hang-ups, hold-ups, delays, being flipped over upside down, Mercury, retrograde. We've got Jupiter coming in retrograde this week as well. So, there is a sense of flipping things over and allowing for some awareness and illumination to come in through the stuckness, through the holdups, through the going back over. And remember that, and we'll talk about this as we get to the final card with the vast vistas, that Jupiter in retrograde with those contractions is asking us to hone in on certain things. And sometimes we have to stop and pause in order to really be able to get that perspective. So this hanged beast comes in here saying, a bat hangs peacefully upside down, bound to a branch above a dark forest, while fireflies dance around in the dim light. It's that moment of peace when the sun drops below the horizon and things are hard to see. It is also known as twilight. You have been placed in an uncomfortable situation in which there is no quick exit. You must let all the control of your surroundings go. Watch, listen, learn, and become comfortable with your current state. It's up to you. No one can connect with you or understand your point of view at the moment. So let this time move on, but learn to make peace with it. Some call it total surrender to the moment. Ha, easier said than done. Well, we're hearing that, 2, 3, 4 times already over here this week in these energies, because sometimes the communication gap is real, and when we talk about Mercury retrograde, when we talk about some of the other aspects this week, potentially creating some friction when it comes to being misunderstood or in communicating with others, that sometimes it's best to just pause, take a beat. And so I like that this bat is peacefully hanging there, not fighting it, not resisting, not putting up this sense of we're trying to go against the grain, but rather surrendering to what is and allowing for awareness to come in, illumination to come in through that. In the dark, the fireflies represent lighting it up with some insight, wisdom, guidance that's coming in through this process. And our 2 major arcana cards here this week, the Hierophant and the Hanged Beast, both talking about that higher wisdom and higher knowledge and things coming in via the crown. When we flip this beast over, we see all the illumination happening around the crown. We see this beautiful crown of flowers here over our mountain goat, because it is all about that higher learning, higher wisdom. And again, stopping and pausing here on top of the mountain, stopping and pausing here, hanging from the branch. There is some synchronicity and flow here in following those spiritual breadcrumbs, giving us that guidance this week. So again, just when you are feeling overloaded, when you are feeling unclear, when you are feeling like misunderstood or frustrated by others' communication to you, take a breath, take a beat, take a pause, allow yourself to, and also I'm getting a little check-in on, hangriness. So go back to our bread and cheese, when you're really, out of sorts, and how you're guided to check. And there's some acronym for it, to check the things around you, to say, like, am I tired? Am I hungry? Am I cold? Am I what? Like checking in on yourself to see if any of those things are contributing to the crankiness, to get to, helping you to move through, again, using your tools and becoming more efficient. There's that 10 of Wands again. Use your tools so you can move through. The stuff is going to happen, right? These are the natural rhythms. We move through, we ebb, we flow, we're up, we're down. There's peaks, there's valleys, there's mountains. It's all a part of the stuff of life on this fool's journey. In order to experience the contrast, in order to have the multidimensional experience. So it's about how we're taking the journey. That really is what we are being shown here through the messages I'm tapping into. Let's wrap it up now with our final card coming from the Sacred Traveler. All right, our final message punctuating our week here for the collective is vast vistas, expand your horizons. And the message is saying, expand your horizons. See the world around you in new ways. This is not a time to think small. It's an exciting time for you. You may find travel or new adventures in your future. Well, for sure, Sagittarius season coming up here at the end of the month. And so think outside the box. Ideas and projects that you've been contemplating are now moving toward manifestation. Unconventional relationships may flourish. Take time to nurture your dreams, for big changes are ahead. The Sacred Traveler wants you to know, as the traveler steps out of the woods, the pathway winds up to a high point with a vast vista. The traveler can see in all directions and knows that all things are possible. New and wondrous paths are ahead. The traveler can choose any direction to journey. Get ready for a joyous, expansive sojourn. Take deep and full breaths. Each breath affirms that you're in an expansive phase of life. So, like I mentioned throughout the cards here, we're getting a little bit of that push-pull, the Two of Swords with that crossroads and maybe even that conflict in the message. Because when we talked about the astrological weather, Jupiter retrograde in Sagittarius, right, is telling us that the contraction, to go with it, to hone into a small part of the picture, which is sort of the opposite of typically Jupiter amplifying and expanding on things. So we might be feeling that pull to take that sojourn, to go. I'm feeling very Three of Wands with this card's energy, because that really is about that all at once. I see past, present, future, and I'm standing here on top of this vista, looking out over the expanse, and I'm taking it all in. Like the Hierophant, like the Hanged Beast, witnessing. And, again, that Two of Swords coming in with that challenge of, I can't see, I'm not clear, I've got thoughts that are conflicting. And so be there if that's what we're experiencing, and allow for, again, using our tools, stepping outside of the box. So again, it's going to hit differently for everybody, and whatever your personal experience is currently and what's going on around you, we're definitely getting a nod to those unfinished projects or things that have kind of been looming that haven't quite gotten off the ground, that this could be a time to begin to put some energy into those things. More so wrapping up stuff before launching into anything new quite yet. After Mercury goes direct, that would be a good time to start. Sagittarius season will be here, and maybe that fire will be kicking up in terms of off and running. But again, whatever your situation, if you're feeling called for a personal card pull this week, please reach out to me in whatever way works for you, and I will be in touch this week with your private polo recorded card pull, so we can go a little bit deeper into these messages and see just what's coming up for you. So that's everything I have for tonight. As I mentioned, 11/11, stay tuned over on the Empowerment Sharecast. I'll definitely be doing some type of pick a card or messaging around that potent portal. And as well, checking your inbox if you are signed up for my newsletter, or if you would like to be, to reach out with your email address. And you will be amongst the first to have access to my early bird special for the season, for my biggest reading of the year. So thank you all so much for being here. I'm sending you all much love and many blessings. We'll talk soon.